Well, here we are, talking about the Vancouver Canucks and their goaltending situation one more time. Because yes, it is true. The main bread and butter in Vancouver's crease, the number one guy, the Vezina-nominated Thatcher Demko, is indeed out for the year. He hasn't played an NHL game since January 10th, 2026, a game where he only played a period before leaving. He also let in 3 goals and 6 shots in that game, but we're not going to talk about that. We're not going to talk about Demko's 6 losses to end off his 2025-2026 regular season. But Demko hasn't been himself. He hasn't been healthy. He hasn't been an option for this team. And with Kevin Lankinen starting out his $4.5 million AAV contract this season that goes on till 2030, you can definitely debate whether or not there is an issue with Vancouver and how many dollars they are putting towards their crease. Lankinen was signed to his $4.5 million extension because of what he had accomplished last season. He was a free agent who signed with Vancouver because there was an opportunity to get some playing time. Artur Shilov's was not a guarantee to actually being a notable NHL player in that season. Thatcher Demko was always going to get hurt, and so Kevin Lankinen took full advantage of that situation. He had signed with the Canucks, had 51 games played, a .902 save percentage, 4 shutouts, and it was enough for Canucks management to say, yeah, we want some stability in net. Lankinen, you're our guy. Meanwhile, Thatcher Demko ended up signing a pretty beefy extension himself, $8.5 million a year for 3 seasons last offseason. And it was a decision that a lot of people around the hockey world were saying, okay, wait a minute, why? What's the rationale here? Why are the Canucks signing Thatcher Demko to this extension in the midst of this goaltending carousel that they've got going on? They just committed money to Lankinen. Demko is hurt. You don't necessarily know if he is going to be available long term. So why make this deal now? With that said, let's go out there and refer to what Frank Seravalli said on Halford and Brough in the Morning back on March 18th. This was from earlier this week on Wednesday. The audio hit will be linked in the description. It is the Could Austin Matthews Ask Out of Toronto This Summer clip, featuring Frank Seravalli from Victory Plus. Let's go out there and take a look at what Seravalli said about the Canucks and their goaltending situation. Take a look at this. I transcribed the conversation on Google Docs. Seravalli went out there and said this. He ends up talking about the extensions that were handed out to both Demko and Lankinen. And Seravalli says this, I just wonder how much of a redo the Canucks would like. What are we, 8 months down the road? Between this one and the various extensions that were handed out, they were able to get out from Garland, obviously, but it just feels like they got ahead of their skis, and they did it at a time where there wasn't really a need to jump. Thatcher Demko is under contract and, obviously, has been dealing with these injuries, plural. What was the harm in letting him play into his UFA year? Then you have a little bit of a rebuttal. We understand why it is the Vancouver Canucks signed Demko. We understand the value in getting him locked up versus letting him go to market and potentially be an option for other teams. Even Seravalli says, I understand the notion of what they were trying to do, which was, we've seen Thatcher Demko, we believe he is one of the game's elite goalies, he wants to stay here, and we want players that want to be here, so let's get it done. But the tough part for me was, Lankinen is just beginning a 5-year deal. What was the urgency to sign Demko? That's the part I don't get. You have Halford in the program, who then tries to ask Seravalli about one more thing before the segment ends, before Seravalli interjects and he says this, could I put a button end on that conversation? Which would be that I would be shocked if the Canucks are not actively trying to move one of those guys this upcoming season, because I don't think they have any designs on spending $13 million on goaltending next year. Oh boy. Frank Seravalli just went out there and dropped a bomb, indicating that, in his opinion, the Vancouver Canucks have all the reasons to go out there and be shopping one of Demko or Lankinen next season. There also was a conversation on the program about teams that might need some goaltending support. Vegas, Montreal. Heck, you could copy and paste the Bobrovsky conversation that we just had earlier on today's programming and say that a Demko or a Lankinen could be a solution. Now, I'll say this in regards to Kevin Lankinen. He doesn't have the same Vezina-nominated resume like Thatcher Demko has. Kevin Lankinen, unfortunately, he's at an .878 percentage this season. It's not great. .360 goals against average in 37 games. The guy's won 8 games. He has lost 21 in regulation. He has not been having a good season, this Kevin Lankinen, even though he ended up getting selected for Team Finland at the Olympics and they ended up winning a bronze medal. He didn't play any games at the Olympics, but he was there in practice and everything. It's kind of why he looked super happy and satisfied in the bronze medal celebration photos. But Kevin Lankinen is a lot better than what we have seen out of him this season. The team in front of him sucks. The defensive structure is all over the place. None of the goaltenders in Vancouver have really been all too great. Lankinen last year, with his .902 save percentage in 51 games, he was able to prove that he has the wherewithal to be a starting goaltender in the National Hockey League. Although, what he also proved last season was, you can't have this guy as a bona fide, true 60 games a year number one. You can have him as a 1A and have him play 41 games a year, but if you have him as the pure bona fide one, that's when he starts to get a little bit tired, and that's when those numbers start to dip from 910, 915 to 902, 900, and 800 and beyond. If you play Lankinen too much, which Vancouver was forced to do last year because Thatcher Demko was hurt and Artur Shilov's was terrible, you might not necessarily be getting the best out of Lankinen. So the best situation for him, if he were to get traded with that $4.5 million AAV deal till 2030, best case scenario for Lankinen would be to go to a team that actually has another stable goaltender or two and split the load there. He can be a very good stopgap if you just don't play him every game. Meanwhile, for Thatcher Demko, this is a guy that is committed to Vancouver. He wants to be a Canuck. He's already mentioned that multiple times. He's making $8.5 million a year because he was nominated for a Vezina a few seasons ago. His .918 save percentage year was crazy, but he's had back-to-back .800 save percentage years since. Demko, with the injuries he has sustained, makes him a very difficult commodity to even think about acquiring if you are a team that needs a goaltender, unless you are 1,000,000% confident that this guy has what it takes to bounce back. He has had so many issues with his health, with his knees, plural, with his groin, with his hips, with whatever. It's all over the place with Thatcher Demko. So, if you are acquiring this guy in a trade, you need to be 1,000,000% sure Demko is your guy. I'd say that Lankinen is the more tradable asset just because he's more available. But hey, Seravalli's going out there and saying that either of these guys would probably be on the market. He thinks that Vancouver would be actively trying to move either of them. So with all that said, let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. How do you feel about Frank Seravalli's assessment on Vancouver goaltending as mentioned on Halford and Brough earlier this week? If you had to place some odds on it, who do you think is going to get traded sooner? Lankinen or Demko? Do any of them get traded? Do they both stay? If both of them get traded, where do you think is the primary destination? Let me know in the comments all your opinions about these guys. I hope you enjoyed this video. And bye.